Leon White, better known as Big Van Vader, was a special athlete. He looked like a monster but was capable of delivering graceful high-flying moves, and his intimidating presence made him a star wherever he travelled to. A career that spanned over 30 years saw Vader reach some dizzying highs and extreme lows, but when all was said and done, Vader was a success in the wrestling business, even if he didn't ever win the big one in Vince McMahon's WWF. This video looks at the career highlights of the man they call Vader. Leon White already had a pro football career in the books before focusing on a professional wrestling career. He played offensive line at the University of Colorado, where he was a second-team All-American for the Buffaloes in 1977. He was drafted by the LA Rams but ended up on the injured reserve list. Leon's first exposure in the world of wrestling came when he joined the AWA. He went by the name Baby Bull, but was later changed to Bull Power. Leon showed an incredible amount of promise as a wrestler, so much so that he was booked into a match with someone he would later have some seriously violent scraps with down the road, the AWA champion Stan Hansen. He would lose the match, but it was made clear that Leon was capable of becoming a very big star. Leon decided to leave the United States to improve his skills in Europe, and eventually in 1987 he went to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Interestingly, Leon was supposed to join All Japan Pro Wrestling, but he was traded to New Japan before making his debut. It was the right decision for Leon, as he became a huge star as Big Van Vader in New Japan. His debut in New Japan was booked to perfection. In December 1987, Vader challenged Antonio Inoki, who had already won a match and was seriously wore out. When Vader won in mere minutes, the pro-Inoki audience began to riot, resulting in New Japan being banned from its home arena at the Sumo Hall. It took 2 years for the ban to be lifted and New Japan to be allowed to work again at Sumo Hall. In April 1989, Vader won a tournament as part of the first ever wrestling show in the Tokyo Dome. That win made him the 4th IWGP Heavyweight Champion and the first non-Japanese or Gaijin to ever hold the belt. During his tenure in New Japan, Vader would win the IWGP title 3 times and also become an IWGP Tag Champion along with fellow big man Bam Bam Bigelow. February of 1990 saw Vader face Stan Hansen yet again, only this time it was in the famous Tokyo Dome as New Japan competed against the stars of All Japan. Before the vicious match even started, Hansen accidentally broke Vader's nose with the bull rope he carried to the ring for his matches. During the matchup, Hansen accidentally poked Vader's left eye during an exchange of stiff shots, which caused Big Van Vader's eye to pop out of its socket. Vader took his mask off, popped his eye back in, and continued the match. As a result of the injury, Vader required a metal plate to be surgically placed under his eye. Vader's immense popularity caught the attention of WCW back in the States. Thanks to WCW's good relationship with New Japan, Vader was able to sign with WCW in 1990 but continue to work for New Japan. In the States he was used very little during his first year, but in 1991 he made more appearances for WCW and he made the decision to go full time with the company in 1992. Vader was paired with manager Harley Race and eventually he defeated Sting to become the heavyweight champion at the Great American Bash. An injury saw him drop the belt to Ron Simmons, but Vader would recapture the title by defeating Simmons in early 1993. The belt then flip-flopped between Sting and Vader, but in the end, Vader was a 3-time heavyweight champion in WCW. Vader's brute strength and power did have its downside in the ring. In his first match against Sting back in 1992, he cracked Sting's ribs and also ruptured his spleen after Sting took the Vader bomb. Sting's injury was just one of many though that involved Vader, as a match with jobber Joe Thurman saw Vader legitimately breaking his back, which left Joe paralysed for a couple of hours. Scary stuff. Mick Foley also broke his nose and needed 27 stitches on his face after working with Vader. In a match on April 24th, 1994, Vader powerbombed Mick Foley on the concrete floor outside the ring, resulting in Foley suffering a concussion and temporary loss of feeling in his left hand and leg. We can't really blame this all on Vader though. We know Mick Foley tended to throw caution to the wind when taking bumps, but it still sounds like Vader was a very scary man to be in the ring with. Vader would go on to feud with Ric Flair, the British Bulldog, win the US title from Dustin Rhodes, and work some matches against Hulk Hogan during 1994 and 1995 before getting fired from the company. Vader wasn't an easy guy to get along with, according to his old manager Harley Race. He was drinking heavily and sometimes getting on the wrong side of people. He ended up getting involved in a locker room fight with Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, which was reportedly all instigated by Vader. Paul knocked him out, and Vader was sent packing. Before making his way to the WWF, Vader went back to New Japan Pro Wrestling and returned the favour to Antonio Inoki. He lost to the Japanese legend and they both wrapped up their story that incited a riot all those years ago. Vader was now ready to make his WWF debut, and it would happen at the 1996 Royal Rumble. Vince McMahon wanted to rename Vader to the Mastodon, and thankfully someone must have told him that it was a dumb idea. Vader's debut in the Rumble match was hyped up for weeks before the event, and we learned that the man they call Vader would be a member of Jim Cornette's Camp Cornette stable. Vader was eliminated in the Royal Rumble by eventual winner Shawn Michaels, but he made his presence known by launching an attack on everyone that was in the ring after he was eliminated. Vader would continue working alongside his Camp Cornette teammates, mainly feuding with ex-member Yokozuna. He was involved in a 6-man tag match at In Your House International Incident that year, and he got a pinfall win over WWF champion Shawn Michaels, which in turn got Vader a shot at Michaels' WWF title at Summerslam in 1996. The Summerslam 1996 match between Shawn and Vader is an interesting match that, unfortunately, highlights how much of an asshole Shawn Michaels could be during this era. Jim Cornette has gone on record to say that Vader was originally scheduled to win the WWF Championship, but the idea was thrown out the window, likely due to Shawn Michaels getting into Vince McMahon's ear. The match itself is odd. Here we have Vader, who has a history of steamrolling opponents and leaving a path of destruction wherever he goes, yet babyface Shawn Michaels gets in all the offense in the beginning of the match. It's strange, as you'd think the story in the ring would be all Vader. Shawn had the opportunity here to make Vader look even more imposing and dangerous, but Shawn was kicking his ass all over the arena at the beginning of the match. Shawn was in a real shitty mood on this night. Most viewers will know the story, but Vader and Shawn weren't gelling well at all in this match. There was a few missed spots. At one point in the match, Vader is supposed to move out of the way when Shawn goes for his elbow drop. Vader forgets the spot, and after landing on his feet, Shawn legitimately kicks him, shouts at him to move and calls him stupid. To be fair, Vader should have moved for the spot, but Shawn also should have acted like a professional. Vader obviously didn't leave SummerSlam 1996 as the new champion. It seemed like this match put an end to any hope Vader ever had of capturing the WWF Championship. You can only imagine what Shawn had to say backstage after this match. Shawn Michaels would go on to work with Psycho Sid instead of continuing his work with Vader. Vader meanwhile entered a short feud with The Undertaker and also teamed up with Mankind and Paul Bearer. He would receive a few more title opportunities, such as at the Final Four match in February of 97 and at In Your House Canadian Stampede, but it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that Vader wasn't winning any of these matches. It would probably be a good time right here to mention the incident in Q8. Without getting too detailed, Undertaker and Vader were guests on a morning talk show in Q8. They were there to promote a WWF tour that was going on. When the host asked Vader if wrestling was fake, Leon got up off his chair and grabbed the guy by the shirt neck, intimidating the host on live TV and also swearing. I'll put the link in the video description in case you haven't saw it yet. For this incident, Vader was charged with assault and use of obscene language, as that was a huge deal in Kuwait to swear on TV. Vader's arrest unfortunately fell at the start of a religious holiday, so the courts were all closed. Vader would be trapped in Kuwait for 2 weeks. Vader revealed that the show producer told him and Undertaker that the wrestling is fake question was coming their way, and they told Vader to make a scene to boost ratings for their show. However, the producer didn't tell the show host that Vader was coming for him. Vader ended up getting fined $164 for the incident, and he soon returned to the USA. Back to the WWF, and in regards to Vader's WWF run, the damage was now done, and somehow McMahon and company had managed to book Vader in so many losing positions that his intimidating stature in pro wrestling had seriously dwindled. He worked mainly against Ken Shamrock and Goldust before eventually having a mask versus mask match against Kane at Over the Edge in 1998. Vader lost and proceeded to call himself a fat piece of shit after the match in an interview with Michael Cole. Vader was then relegated to jobber status, and eventually he negotiated his own release from the WWF. His final WWF pay-per-view match was a loss to Bradshaw at Breakdown in Your House in a no-holds-barred match. In comparison to what Vader accomplished in WCW and New Japan, Vader in the WWF had turned out to be a failure. Vince McMahon wanted Vader to lose weight, but this didn't happen. WWE's failure to book Vader as a monster heel really hurt him. Jim Cornette says that the WWF didn't know what to do with Vader, and the Shawn Michaels match at Summerslam in '96 had really hurt his confidence. Vader would go on to All Japan Pro Wrestling in 1998, and he formed a tag team with his old nemesis Stan Hansen. In 1999, he became the All Japan Triple Crown champion. He had a few small stints in TNA, and also made a couple of special appearances for the WWE, including a match where he defeated Heath Slater in 2012. He would induct Stan Hansen into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2016. In a December 2016 shoot interview, Vader candidly spoke about a heart specialist informing him that he only had 2 years to live. In March of 2018, 2 years later, Vader underwent open heart surgery. A second surgery followed in May that year. Around this time, Leon was also battling pneumonia, and sadly, the battle proved too much for him. Vader died on June 18, 2018. He was 63 years old. It also appeared that the heart specialist that Vader saw 2 years earlier was correct about Vader's life expectancy. We should remember that Leon White never needed Vince McMahon to turn him into a legend or a superstar. He became one the minute he tore through Japan and sent Sumo Hall into a frenzy with one match. While his WWF run may be seen as a disappointment, we only need to look back at Vader's work in Japan and also in WCW to see just how good Vader could be given the right booking and circumstances. Vader has not been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame yet, and like his old partner Bam Bam Bigelow, you have to wonder why this induction hasn't happened yet.